Hey, good afternoon. Today is Thursday, April the 4th, 2024. The time now is 4:32 p.m. So, I just want to provide an update to the video that I did yesterday pertaining to the situation in the Middle East. And I'm talking specifically about the tension between Israel and Iran. So, on the 1st of April, the Israeli F-35 jet basically attacked Iran's consulate in Damascus, Syria, basically killing three top generals and also other officials as well. And it is being said that about seven Syrian citizens were killed. Now, I'm going to stress that I am not an expert in geopolitics. I am not an expert in politics. I'm just a man with an opinion, with a perspective on global affairs, a perspective on international relations, a perspective on politics, and I want to engage in discussions pertaining to geopolitics, politics, and other topics and events relating to our global community. So, the situation between Iran and Israel is getting tense, not to the point of the brink of an all out war, even though many are saying that, but I do believe that Iran is not going to engage in the kind of escalation that many in the Western or in the American press and many who are uh, analysts are basically predicting. Look, the Middle East and many countries around the world do not want war. Russia do not want war. The United States do not want war. Okay? Now, there are many who are basically speculating that the attack on Iran's consulate was an attempt by Israel to draw the United States into a greater war with Iran. If that is the case, that is a big mistake, a very terrible decision. Even though it could work on the benefit of Israel, should the United States come into war with Iran, a greater war, I do believe it is going to be a horrible experience for the United States. One being that Iran is a much more sophisticated country than, let's say, Afghanistan or than Iraq was when Iraq got attacked or invaded in 2003. And we are seeing currently in Ukraine with Iranian weapons being used. So technologically, in terms of their military industrial complex, they are much sophisticated than many countries out there. But also Iran is a country of about 80 million people or so, and it is a rugged mountainous country. If Iran go into a war with the United States and stand up and fight, if Iranian fight, it is not going to be a good thing for the United States. It's going to be another decade or 2 decades of war, which is going to drain the United States. Now, if you are Russians, and we are looking at this in terms of geopolitics as well, if you are a Russian strategist in the Russian government, a military strategist, the United States being bogged down in a war with Iran could be beneficial and not be beneficial. Because one, the United States will have to focus its attention on Iran. Because Iran is a formidable enemy. Yes, it may not be strong enough to beat the United States, but they are strong enough to make a stand. In this case, if the United States goes into war with Iran, and I do believe, the US will have to focus on its war effort with Iran in the Middle East, which means the United States and NATO will have to remove their attention to the greater extent from the Ukrainian battlefield, which the Russians right now are not losing in Ukraine. And Ukraine is going through a very tough time. And I do believe to the U.S. Strategists out there, even though they want to continue the war as a means to bog down Russia, Ukraine, I believe, is appearing to them as a lost cause. Now, if Israel gets into trouble with Iran and brings in the United States will have to be committed. And in terms of geopolitics, even though the West, NATO, the United States, wanted to use Ukraine or are currently using Ukraine as a means to defeat Russia or as a means to bog Russia down, I do believe in terms of relations, Israel means a lot to the United States and to a greater extent NATO than Ukraine means to them. We are talking about Ukraine that is, as of now, is having a tough time, and Russia is not going away anytime soon. This means they will have to focus their energy in the Middle East, focus their energy fighting Iran. But then I do believe to an extent as well, as much as it could work on the Russians' favor or in the Russians' favor, that NATO and the United States remove their attention on Ukraine and focus on Iraq. Russia also want the Middle East stable. So even though Russia will have to focus on Ukraine all by itself without Western attention, a destabilization in the Middle East where the United States and NATO goes after Iran will be problematic in the future for Russia as well. But I do believe the United States, at least those people who are sound, NATO, those people who are sound, and much of the world do not want war in the Middle East. And so far, we are looking at, and we are getting, so far we are getting lots of statements coming from the Middle East or Middle Eastern governments that are criticizing Israel and so on for the attack on the Iranian embassy complex or the Iranian consulate. There is an analyst that said that the attack or the killing of General Zahedi and other 3 top Iranian generals and officials is a blow to Iran. Now, I understand militarily it is a blow because these guys were at the top. But one thing I do believe, Iran is not like other countries in the global south. And I do believe the West needs to understand that they are fighting a system. A system works like this. If one person is taken out, there are others who are in line to take over. They may not be as sophisticated enough. But then when you look at a country like Iran, that is highly educated, scientifically much advanced, technologically, militarily much advanced than many countries in the global south, Iran as a system is much formidable than other countries. And the West needs to understand that it is fighting or it is contesting a system in Iran. That is Iran. Not just the few top governments, the few top leaders in the government. So in that case, by losing 3 top generals in the security or military apparatus, it's a blow. However, in the long term, and also as of now, as much as it is a blow, the attack is a blow to Iran in the military sense. It is a blow to Israel's reputation, okay? In terms of Israel's reputation, this is a blow. So you have the situation going on in Gaza. Another hot news right now is the Israeli attack of a food aid convoy or whatever, World's Kitchen, if you will, and killing some workers. And then you have an attack on the embassy complex or consulate of another country. So it seems like things are just going bad for the Israelis. So in this case, as much as the attack and the killing of Zahedi and the other top generals, it's a blow to Iran militarily. It is a bad press for Israel. And I do believe that the Israeli system, the Israeli government, and thinkers or strategists need to make this go away as soon as possible, because it is going to be piling and piling and piling. Already, Israel is getting criticism from countries throughout the world. Russia has issued a direct and official criticism. Saudi Arabia and many countries in the Middle East, and I do believe even in Africa and Asia and the Americas and so on. If these governments and countries have their way, if they are brave enough, they will issue condemnation or criticism as well. So what we are seeing right now is just struggle between the powerful. So the poor and the powerless may not be able to make their voice heard, because then they get punished. But Israel needs to make this go away as soon as possible. Now, in terms of what's happening in the big picture, I've been consulting a couple of articles, okay, about the situation in Israel. I consulted an article from the Times of Israel, an article from Reuters, an article from St. Lucia, Loop News, an ABC News article. I consulted that. I consulted an article from Tehran Times, I guess from Iran. I looked at a PBS News article. And also, I look at the emergency session of the United Nations. In addition, I do have the meeting coverage and press release at the United Nations, okay, the briefing, security briefing. So I am going to talk about these articles like I've been doing now for the past few days, where I will state the article's title, and then I will read some things that I highlight from the article and try to provide a perspective or provide a question, if you will. But yes, so I'm going to begin now. The first article is the article from the Times of Israel, and the article title reads, U.S. official says strike on Iranian general a blow to Tehran, risk inflaming region. Okay, the United States officials say that the strike on Iranian general is a blow to Iran, and that it is also creating a risk to inflame the region. Now, the article from Reuters, the title reads, EU condemns attack on Iran's embassy in Damascus, urge restraint. And many countries are actually coming out and saying, calling for restraint. In fact, when I was doing some reading today, I even stressed that the African Union, okay, needs to make itself heard, needs to begin to engage in global discussion, okay? Now, another article from, this one is from St. Lucia, and it is the Loop News. The article title reads, Israel slammed for attack on Iranian consulate. The article from ABC News, the title reads, Pentagon says Israel conducted strike against Iran in Syria. For some reason, the website for the Tehran Time is not uploading, it's not working, so I'm going to skip that for now. And even the PBS article is not showing up. Let me try to reload this. So it's kind of weird, but I'm gonna brush through that. But I just want to stress something before I continue. When I read the article, yes, they continue to stress that Israel has not, okay, accept responsibility for the attack, but also Israel has not denounced the attack, has not denied responsibility for the attack. Another thing that is stressed in the article is that in the past months and years, Israel has consistently basically attacked or strike targets in Syria. But then finally, you have a strike on the embassy complex or the consulate of Iran. Another thing that I must stress, it's very strange that the EU is criticizing Israel. And when I read the statements of the EU, it's very strong. I did not expect such criticism or such remark to be made by the EU. But then I would love to see whether NATO might do something. And if NATO make a statement, what would NATO say? Also, the United States seems to try to distance itself from the attack. Perhaps because the attack was carried on an embassy complex. So, reading the articles, okay, and trying to make sense of the situation, okay, the tension between Israel and Iran and the controversy behind it. It is very interesting. It is very striking because from what I'm getting, it seems as if the United States is trying to distance itself. Basically the White House is trying to distance itself from the whole attack things. And it is not because, I suggest it is not because of the killing of the general Zahedi and the other two top generals. No, because the countries, Israel, Iran, and the United States are engaging tit for tat. They're engaging in war, okay, in dispute. It is beneficial for the United States and Israel and NATO, if you look at their war policies, to go out and assassinate their enemies' military leaders or commanders, if you will. However, what I think it is because of the attack on the embassy, the consulate facility. That is a taboo. It is a very touching or sensitive reality that the United States doesn't want to deal with. Because this also, it begs the question, or it invites the whole idea of what if this was to be done to the United States or to Western countries. Okay? But the whole idea of attacking an embassy or a consulate is a taboo. It's very, very controversial. Okay? It is a controversial idea. And it is a serious matter. I do feel like Israel probably would have gotten away with it had Israel just go out after the general actually in Iran, not the embassy facility. Of course, if you strike into Iran, and once again, I'm not calling for a strike on Iran. I'm just trying to make an observation here. Yes, if you attack a citizen within a country, you are basically disrespecting or violating the sovereignty of that country. But I feel like in this case, the physical land of Iran versus the symbol of Iran in another country, I feel like it is much more controversial in international relations. But what I'm saying is, any country would probably get very angry if you attack their embassies, if you attack their consulate, than if you was to go out and carry out the attack within the physical land of the country. So I do believe this is the reason why countries like the United States are very much reluctant to voice out their strong support of Israel, which they usually do, or they are very much playing safe in terms of trying to separate themselves, perhaps not from Israel, but from the activity, the action. It seems that's what the U.S. is doing. But also the EU. I didn't believe that the EU would make such a statement. The statement the EU made is very strong. Okay, and yes, you can see a form of diplomacy within the statement, but I wouldn't have expect the EU to make such statement. Now, perhaps NATO, on the other hand, will make a statement that will be much more pro-Israel. Okay, but I would love to see that happen. Now, in terms of the article, I am going to read the parts of the articles which I highlight. The first article, which I got from Times of Israel, the article title reads, U.S. officials say strike on Iranian general a blow to Tehran, risk inflaming region. Now, I'm going to comment. The alleged Israeli strike that killed Iran's top Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps commander in Syria was a strategic blow to Tehran and may risk an escalation of tension in the region, current and former U.S. official told the New York Times Tuesday. Yes, it is a blow. I will say that militarily. But in terms of reputation, in terms of what's happening right now with the criticism that Israel is receiving, when you add all those to the situation in Gaza, okay, the war in Gaza, when you add that to the recent activity, okay, the killing of those people working the what is it, the World Kitchen or whatever, food aid, that's too much. That is a bad press. I'm going to continue. Though it was blamed by Iran and its ally, Israel has not officially commented on the attack on the building in Damascus, which killed General Mohammed Reza Zahedi, the IRGC's most senior official in Syria, along with his deputy, Mohammed Hadi Hajriahimi, 5 other IRCG officers, and at least 1 member of Hezbollah. Now, this paragraph or statement here is very interesting. The author refer to the facility as the building. You got to pay respect. It is an official building. It is a diplomatic building. It is an embassy complex or a consulate. I do believe in this case, the wording is not good. That's disrespectful. Give it the title. Give it the meaning that it deserves. So another thing that I want to stress here, the author is saying, though it was blamed by Iran and its allies, Israel has not officially commented on the attack on the building in Damascus, which killed the general and his associates. But the only pushback to this is that now it is being accepted by many prominent institutions in the world, and even the United States government is saying in one of the articles that yes, Israel is responsible for the attack, or Israel carried out the attack. I'm going to continue. In the wake of the strike, U.S. troops based in southeastern Syria intercepted an attack drone, marking the first such incident in 2 months, a Defense Department told the Times, speaking on condition of anonymity. Iran-backed militia had refrained from attacking U.S. bases in an apparent attempt to de-escalate after 3 U.S. troops were killed in a drone strike in Jordan in January. Ralph Goff, a former senior CIA official who operated in the Middle East, called the alleged Israeli strike reckless, adding that it will only result in escalation by Iran and its proxies. Yes, there could be an escalation because this is also a it's a disrespect in international relations. You have to act. But I don't think Iran and quote unquote its proxies will escalate in the manner as many in the West are predicting. In fact, it sounds as if those in the West who are making the prediction of uh, escalation, when I read their article, their statement, it sounds more like wishful thinking, like they want escalation, rather than them foretelling the activity or the possible action of the other side. Continue. He told the Times that the attack was in line with Israel's long term strategy of weakening the IRGC and punishing them for ongoing plots to kill or kidnap Israeli Jews around the world. So that is the first article, which I got from Times of Israel. Once again, we are in the midst of an information war. So this article, yes, is you can tell is pro-Israel, and basically the people who are speaking here are former U.S. officials or those who are perhaps current U.S. officials but are speaking in terms of being anonymous. Now, the next article which I am going to discuss here is the article basically from Reuters. The article's title reads, EU condemns attack on Iran's embassy in Damascus, urge restraint. So EU is saying, look, let's be slow. Let's take it slow here. We don't want big issues here. So I'm going to read. Brussels, April 3rd, Reuters. The European Union on Wednesday condemned an airstrike on the Iranian embassy in Damascus on April 1st that killed 7 people and called on countries in the region to show restraint. Makes sense because even Saudi Arabia and the other Gulf states are basically criticizing Israel. And this is one of the reasons that I feel like this attack is a bad press, because Israel was also building relationship with the other Gulf states, including Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, okay, to normalize relations. Stuff like this at a time when even Iran is getting into breaks, and Iran is making nice, okay? Iran and Saudi Arabia are building their relationship. This is not something that you want to be doing. I'm going to continue. Iran blamed Israel for the attack, which killed 2 of its generals and 5 military advisors at its embassy compound in Damascus. Israel has not claimed responsibility for the strike, one of the most significant yet on Iranian interest in Syria. Once again, the articles keep stressing that Iran is making a blame on Israel, putting the blame on Israel, but also stressing that Israel has not accepted responsibility for the attack or condemned the attack or denied the attack. I'm going to continue. In this highly tense regionalized situation, it is imperative to show utmost restraint. Peter Stano, a spokesperson for the Executive European Commission, said in a post on X, the principle of inviolability of diplomatic and consular premises and personnel must be respected in all cases and in all circumstances, in accordance with international law. That's a loaded statement, because this attack, yes, folks are saying it is a blow to Iran in terms of the fact that 3 top military people were killed. However, this is an attack on international law. So the whole fabric of the international system, diplomacy and all that, how it works, which the United States and the West put together, this is an attack on that. And we don't want to create, and I do believe Israel or any country do not want to create a situation that basically, as of now, is putting the US and the West in a very sticky situation. I'm going to continue and I'll read that once again. The principle of inviolability of diplomatic and consular premises and personnel must be respected in all cases and in all circumstances, in accordance with international law. Speaking to Al Jazeera TV while visiting the Middle East, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said the unacceptable attack risked stoking an escalation of the conflict in the region and urged Israel to explain if it played any role. So this is not assigning blame. It is saying, are you responsible? Make your case. Tell us. Are you responsible? Did you do this? So the article's title reads, EU condemns attack on Iran's embassy in Damascus, urge restraint. So I'm going to continue. It's not acceptable. It needs to be clarified by the Israeli government. We are very concerned about the situation, and that is why we ask the Israeli government to try to avoid this regional escalation, said Sanchez, or Sanchez said. So we are talking now about the Prime Minister of Spain basically issuing a statement. Continue. Iran has avoided direct conflict with Israel during the half-year war against Hamas in Gaza, while supporting its allies' attack on Israeli and U.S. targets. However, Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei vowed revenge for Monday's airstrike, which destroyed a consular building adjacent to the main embassy complex in the upscale Meza district of Syrian capital. Now, the next article is from St. Lucia, and the source or the paper is The Loop, basically Loop News. The article's title reads, Israel slammed for attack on Iranian consulate. I'm going to read. A slew of countries and organizations, including the United Nations, on Tuesday deplored the deadly Israeli attack on the Iranian consulate building in Syria. The Syrian Defense Ministry reported that on Monday, around 5 p.m. local time, Israeli forces carried out a missile strike from the direction of the occupied Syrian Golan Heights, targeting the Iranian embassy's consulate building in Damascus. The Syrian Health Ministry reported on Tuesday that 4 Syrians were killed and 13 others were injured in the attack, while the Iranian side confirmed the death of 7 Iranians, including 2 commanders. So now they're saying 2 commanders, but it has been confirmed. In most cases, they are saying 3 top officials. I'm going to continue. The Secretary General condemns, that's the Secretary of the United Nations. The Secretary General condemns the attack on diplomatic premises of the Islamic Republic of Iran in Damascus, said Stephanie Dujarric, the chief spokesman for UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. He, that's the Secretary General Antonio Guterres, further calls on all concerned parties to exercise the utmost restraint and avoid any further escalation. He cautions that any miscalculation could lead to a broader conflict in an already volatile region with devastating consequences for civilians who already are seeing unprecedented suffering in Syria, in Lebanon, in the occupied Palestinian territory, and the broader Middle East, said the spokeswoman. The Arab League issued a statement condemning the Israeli attack, calling it a clear violation of Syrian sovereignty and the international law. Israel's action risk expanding the scope of the regional war and pushing the region into chaos, it said. Peter Stano, the European Commission's lead spokesman for foreign affairs and security policy, said the EU was shocked by the attack. That's a simple sentence, but words such as shock. Yes, the EU is not going to do anything because the EU, NATO, the US, they are all strong supporters of Israel. But in international relation, the way it is phrased, shock, that's a big deal. It's basically, it feels like the EU trying to also protect itself, in this case, being forced to say something and try to use a word such as shock. And in the video I did yesterday, I even stressed that the United States will have to, at some point, criticize Israel because it is not about the killing of the top generals, okay, Iran's top general. They don't care about those guys. They would love to kill those guys. What this is about and what the United States government, the White House, is separating itself from is the whole idea that a foreign embassy complex or a foreign consulate was attacked. In the statements, in the various articles, the U.S. officials repeatedly stress we don't have anything to do with it. So I'm going to continue. Peter Stano, the European Commission's lead spokesman for foreign affairs and security policy, said the EU was shocked by the attack. Under the current tense situation in the region, restraint is essential and further escalation in the region is in no one's interest, he said. In addition, Russia, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, and Egypt also denounced the attack. As an African who is interested in geopolitics, we need to begin to push the African Union to make its voice heard. I will expect the African Union collectively to make a statement. Doesn't have to condemn, doesn't have to support anyone, doesn't have to criticize anyone, but using diplomatic words such as restraint, such as peace. Make yourself heard. Show the world that you are visible and that you are relevant. In fact, that region of the world, if it goes into destabilizing war, Africa will be hurt as well. So I just want to stress that. But I'm going to continue with the article, the ABC News article. The ABC News article, the title of the article reads, Pentagon says Israel conducted strike against Iran in Syria. So ABC is saying, the Pentagon is saying that Israel conducted an attack or a strike, if you will, against Iran in Syria. So yes, the other articles are stressing that Israel denied. In this case, it means nothing because Israel's strongest ally or strongest supporter in the world, the United States, is saying, yes, Israel, you did it. We may not get all the information, the detail, but the U.S. knows something. In fact, past articles that I looked at yesterday and did for yesterday state that Israel did notify the United States prior to carrying out the attack. However, Israel did not specify the target. I'm going to continue with this article, but first, let me go ahead again and read the article's title. The ABC article, the title reads, Pentagon says Israel conducted strike against Iran in Syria. I'm going to read. The Pentagon said Tuesday that Israel was behind the airstrike in Damascus, Syria, that killed 7 people, including a top Iranian commander, even though Israel, once again, has not claimed responsibility for the attack, but also has not denied the attack. Sabrina Singh, the Pentagon's deputy press secretary, told the reporter Tuesday that Israel was behind the airstrike in Damascus, has led Iran to say it would retaliate. The U.S. did not conduct a strike in Damascus, said Singh. I would refer you to the Israelis to speak on their strike. Whoa, that's an interesting statement. Hey, we didn't do it. Go ask them. That's a good way to brush off responsibility or to try to separate yourself from the discussion. Okay? It may seem as if the US, in this case, okay, the White House is throwing Israel under the bus. It may appear like this. It can be taken out of context. But the whole idea, it shows how the U.S., in this case, the White House, is trying to distance itself from the attack, and not the killing of the generals and other, but the attack on the consulate. I'm going to continue. Singh later said that the U.S. assessed that Israel was behind the airstrike and that several leaders from Iran Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, had been killed in the strike. Our initial assessment right now is that it was a few top IRGC leaders. We haven't been able to independently confirm identity, but that is our initial assessment right now, she said. Singh added that we were not notified by the Israeli about their strike or the intended target of their strike in Damascus. Well, articles which I read yesterday state that, and they basically source or cite their source, that Israel actually tipped of the United States, let the White House know that they were going to attack, yet did not specify the target. So for this article, I'm going to end right here. So it's basically the same thing, back and forth, with the United States stressing that it has nothing to do with the attack. So I'm going to end here with reading the articles. However, what this shows is that the current international order is very fragile. We have a superpower, and I'm not going to say the superpower is basically reducing in terms of its ability, in terms of its power. The U.S. is still powerful. But the rest of the world has become much braver to look at the U.S., the West, to stand in their midst and talk back. I do believe that because many things have happened in the past few years, okay? And then in recent time, you got the COVID-19 pandemic, you got the vaccine, hoarding of vaccine, the vaccine diplomacy. You have October 7, 2023 in Israel and the war in Gaza. You have the war in Ukraine. And then now you have Israel's attack on Iran's embassy complex, killing 3 top generals. The West, I will not say in decline in this case right now, but it is in a situation where it is losing legitimacy. And the only thing here is much of the world is still afraid to look at the West and just go ballistic in terms of criticism. because much of the West is powerful, and much of the rest of the world, the global South, is still weak and powerless. So if you criticize the West, you basically are looking for trouble for yourself. What they say, you don't bite the hands that feed you, or you don't bite the hand that feeds you. So this is the situation that I do believe going on here. But this is a bad press for Israel, and I do believe Israel and the Israeli leaders needs to begin to strategize to see how they can get out of this one, but moving forward to be very strategic, very careful not to make mistakes that could lead to added fume or added criticism, unwanted criticism on their reputation. Okay, reputational decline in this case, when you add to the fact that the West is having a difficulty defeating the Russians, much of the world are talking back. BRICS is here. You cannot afford to put yourself in such situation. So I do believe that the attack on Iran's embassy complex in Damascus, Syria, the damages done to the consulate building, and the killing or the assassination of 3 top Iranian generals was a calculated effort, a calculated action. I do not think that this was random. Now, I start this series about the tension in the Middle East between Israel and Iran, resulting from the attack on the consulate and the killing or assassination, if you will, of 3 Iranian top generals. One being Zahedi, who is renowned. Everyone is talking about him. More is coming out about him. There is allegations out there. There is allegation out there that he is basically the mastermind or the director behind Iran's operation in Syria, basically working with Hezbollah and other group to attack Israel. So, to put it plainly, it is said that he was engaging in clandestine activities in Syria, which in this case were leading to Israelis being killed whatsoever. So I do believe, honestly, I start this series by asking question: why did Israel carry out the attack? What was the motive, or what were the motives? Did the Israeli government or the Israeli planners or strategists, did they thought thoroughly about the situation, about their actions and the end result, the consequence of their action? Did they weigh the pros and cons of attacking the building and killing, if you will, or assassination, if you will, of 3 top Iranian generals? Okay, I did ask those questions, and I do think yes, all of the above happened. However, perhaps we can say that Israel carried out the strike, one being that the situation going on in Gaza right now, Israel's reputation has been taking a hit. Perhaps with that, they like, okay, well, oh well, we cannot be criticized harsher than we are currently being criticized for what is going on in Gaza, despite what the allegation may be. But also, Israel has stronger friends behind it, or behind her, however you want to say it. You have the United States, you have NATO, you have other countries. In addition, you are talking about the fact that the enemy in this case is Iran, and Israel has been working on trying to normalize relations with the Gulf states, which in this case, perhaps if they thought thoroughly, they may have come up with the conclusion that, look, we are going to be beaten in the media in terms of information, in terms of criticism. However, countries like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE are going to be in much bigger trouble because they are normalizing relationship with us. Yes, they may want to walk back to an extent, their normalization of relationship with us, but they are in a situation where, to an extent, they will be calculated in what they say in terms of their criticism of us, and they are not going to come to war against us or whatever. The West support us. The world has already been criticizing us. The Arab Gulf state, they can't do that much. So let's go ahead and show force. But then I am not sure whether they actually thought thoroughly about the fact that, look, we are going to attack a diplomatic compound, a foreign embassy complex. They either did not thought that through, they either did not weigh the pros and cons of that, or they did, but decided to do it because either way, their strong friends will support them. Perhaps they just didn't care. But also, I would speculate, honestly, that those who made the decision to attack the complex were soldiers. So they're at war. They basically decided to do the military. We are soldiers. We will carry out soldiers' activity. I will speculate that no international lawyer or no lawyer was in that room, in that situation room, when the decision was made to attack Iran's embassy complex. Perhaps had there been international lawyers, had there been lawyers, okay, and I'm talking about Israeli lawyers, experts in international relations, expert in law, international law, perhaps they may have tried to sway the military guys. Slow down a second. You are attacking a foreign embassy. That is going to win us a whole lot of condemnation and criticism. Honestly, I do believe even striking within Iran could have been much more lesser of a situation, and Israel probably would have received lesser criticism or condemnation than it is receiving now from countries and institutions around the world by attacking the diplomatic compound, because it is a space of international relations. It is a space of diplomatic activities, at least officially, at least in terms of theory. But in practicality, governments and associates of governments are doing lots of clandestine activities in these diplomatic compounds. And if that's the case, I do believe even the United States, even Israel, even Liberia, even Sierra Leone, even Russia, China, Brazil, Canada, United Kingdom, Germany, France, all these countries carry out clandestine activities in their embassy complex. I would not be surprised if there are evidence out there that every embassy of a major world power in the world has some monitoring equipment, and there are monitoring activities going on where they are monitoring the citizens and governments of the countries in which they are supposed to conduct diplomatic businesses. What I'm saying here is that I will not be surprised if evidence come out that the embassies and the consulate facilities around the world of bigger and more powerful countries are actually spy installations where they are doing some tracking of the citizens and governments of countries in which they do diplomatic businesses. But one big question that I want to ask, though, is that why rush? I do believe that General Zahedi and the other guys, the other top general, do not stay in that consulate forever. Perhaps Israel decided, look, let's take them out now because all these big guys are together in the same facility. We're going to risk it and go all out. But the truth here is they are human beings. Yes, they may be at the facility right now, but then few hours, few days, they have to leave the facility. In this case, you could target them in that manner, okay? Outside the facility. You could target them and even pull back. But I feel like part of what this action of Israel could lead to is the radicalization, more radicalization of Iranian society in support of the killed generals and in support of their government. And that in the long term may not work in the favor of Israel. So that is something that I want to share. Now, I'm going to end again by stressing I am not an expert. I'm just a man who is interested in geopolitics, who is interested in discussions about topics, events, and things relating to international relations and our global community. I want to engage in these discussions. I want to share my perspective. Now, my perspective may not be the best, but once again, I hope to learn. I hope to get better. Please feel free to give me your feedback. Let me know what I said wrong and what I can do next time to get better. I also want to apologize that my videos are terrible right now in terms of the quality. I am shooting these videos from my cell phone and I do have an Android. I've never had an iPhone. I don't have iPhone. Since I began buying phones, I've always used Android. But please forgive me for the poor quality. I do have camera at home, a camera. One day I will begin to plan things, okay? Get some friends with me to help with editing and everything. So far, I am the one doing everything. But just focus on the content of my videos. Once again, give me a feedback. But thank you very much, most importantly, for watching The Echoing Voice. Peace.